Hey, thanks for tuning in for today's stream. For my hack and play this week, I'm actually going to port contribkanban to Drupal 9 because it's still at Drupal 8. If you aren't familiar with contribkanban, it is a thing I created some time ago that turns Drupal.org issue queues into Kanban boards. So if we were to, let's just search for, so if we look for commerce, you click on the commerce 2.x board, it's actually going to load all of the Drupal.org issues as um, like boards you'd see on a Kanban board. And it can make it a little bit easier to sprint versus going to Drupal.org where you just have a table of issues. Contrib Kanban is a decoupled Drupal app where the front end is on, what do you want to call it? It is, the front end is React with Create React app, and then the back end is, the back end is Drupal with JSON API. I tried to go through porting this some time ago, back in almost a year ago. I'm gonna close. Actually, I guess let's see what I changed in here. Ignore contrib. So I was doing this some time ago with upgrade status running, and I needed to wait for a few things to get upgraded. So let me go ahead and see if I can get this up and running locally. So what to do first? I have to refresh my brain a moment. So it is hosted with Amazy.io Lagoon. Kudos to them for sponsoring the project's hosting. And it's using the Lagoon and Lando setup. So I should just have to do Lando start. Actually, Docker PS, make sure nothing's running. Lando start. So we'll get it running locally. And I'll use Lando to run composer install because locally I have PHP 8, and on here it's not using PHP 8. This is 7.3. So we'll get all this updated once it's up and running. All this should have been updated from Violinist. Let me see. Oh, updates. Okay, this, it's still indexing, so that might be why it's kind of weird, because I realized that this is saying it can be updated, but it's the same update version. So that's odd. All right, so let's wait for this to get up. Oh, Lando start is going to run composer install for me. So that's set. And then let's see. I have upgrade status running. So upgrade status is the Drupal module that performs it executes PHP stand, but also does some more stateful analysis. So we'll run that and also do some cleanup here. Whereas apparently before, PHP stand extension installer conflicted with upgrade status. I don't think that's true anymore. So we can leverage that. I'm going to go ahead and just close this because it's outdated. But I want to copy that change there. So let's go ahead and make a new branch. Call D9 upgrade. And while this is still installing, I want to copy over this change that I made to Circle CI, which I do want to get this over to GitHub Actions maybe, because that makes it a little bit easier to review. Let's see. Search there. We want to drop ignore contrib. We want to run that. So that's one fix. Wait for this to finish the composer install. Then we're going to try adding PHP stand extension installer, so that way we can drop this configuration. And hopefully we can get this working. Oh, is this still using Composer 1? Let's see if we can fix that as well. Actually, I don't know if I can because it's using the Lagoon recipe, and the Lagoon recipe it might not work here. This could also possibly be updated. Oh man. We can type simply test me. So simply test me is also provided free hosting by Amaze.io for Lagoon with Lagoon. And I'm going to see if I can just update this. So this is still, it says 2.3. The Lagoon routes. Has that there. I guess it's pretty much the same. Docker files, CI Lagoon Docker file. And this is coming from the 7.3 CLI Drupal, fixed for Drush. I guess all these could probably be updated too. 7.4. All right. I will work on that once we get to Drupal 9 because I know simplytest.me is Drupal 9. So we'll wait to work on that. So let's see. This finished. It created. Let's run it. Finish the indexing. And then once it's running, we'll go ahead and test it out or run upgrade status to see if we can go through with an upgrade. Come on, finish creating. Sorry, it's taking a minute. Or more than a minute. All right, come on. Like, I don't know what it is, but whenever I use Lagoon on a project, it takes forever to start up. Or not Lagoon, Lando. My Lando projects seem to take longer to start up than when I use DDev, but I put this on Lando since Lando has a Lagoon integration, or recipe rather. Jeez, come on. I realize one thing that might need to be done too is set up build. Do we install yarn? We might need, I should add yarn to that too. All right, we've got the builds. Let's copy that URL. Actually, I don't know if I've got if I have this completely set up. Yeah, because that's not going to the React front end. So one site, let me see if I have this set up. So local there. Do I still have? So I used to just use this with SQLite locally, but it looks like I turned that off. I guess that's fine. We don't need to have the React app for this to work. We just need to be able to log in. So if I were to do Lando Drush, let's see. Okay, Lando Drush ULI, so we can log into Drupal. So copy that URL again. And actually, let's do Lando Drush updb because I have no idea how outdated my local database is. Available updates. And let's see what admin toolbar. Oh, this didn't get, oh, because it's on 2.5. Why didn't I get, I should be getting pull requests from Violinist, but it doesn't seem to have hit here. Yeah, that's odd. Oh, we'll get that resolved quickly. So let me do Drush CIM just to make sure all the config's up to date. And then we'll start our Drupal 9 readiness check. So the first thing I'm going to do is go over to upgrade status. And we're going to see what this tells us to do. All right. So compatible with next there. Drupal core should be 8.9.x. So let's upgrade Drupal core. So we'll do Lando Drush or Lando Composer. Let's make sure Lando Composer is a command that shows up because I have no idea what the Lagoon recipe gives in Lando. Okay, so let's do Lando Composer update. What do we, what's the command? So we need to update Composer scaffold, core recommended, and core dev pinned, which I want to change that just to be core dev. We don't need pinned. I'll run that. When using Drush, minimum version is 10, so we'll bump up 10. Let's see. Lagoon Composer 2. Composer, that's okay, get memory. I don't want get memory, I just want get. That's a 404 not found. That's cool. ACIO. Lagoon 2257. Or that, the composer self update. Yeah. Oh. That's 2257, I believe. Oh, this is still open? Yep, okay. Oh, geez. And this ran out of... All right. Goodness gracious. All right, so let's look at the CLI. We're going to run that. So what is it? Lando. I don't use Lando. I don't want to run Lando rebuild because it's such a hot mess. Sorry, when I say it's a hot mess, it just takes forever to rebuild everything. Only rebuild specified services. How do you list your services? Oh, screw it. I'm just going to do Lando rebuild. Okay, so you don't publish an image with Composer 2 already built in. Gotcha. Which isn't the end of the world. Like, it's not hard just to add that in. I just wasn't sure if maybe it was like, oh, well, 7.3 still had this. And if anybody's curious, like, why wouldn't you? Because there's still legacy applications that break with Composer 2. It's much easier to tell people to do self-update, bump to version 2, than it is to just have everybody's thing break. Well, it looks like this needed to do a pull anyways, so it's not the end of the world. But what I will do is end up making this its own commit outside of here, just in case I don't finish today. Oh, and for the record, I know I might every once in a while groan about Lando, but I put I sponsor the project. So if I'm gonna complain about something or slightly groan, not even complain, because it works fine. I'm just a picky person, but I make sure to sponsor the project so it receives development and continues to improve and be useful, because I have clients that use it, and I couldn't work on those client projects without Lando. So I encourage everybody to sponsor projects that they use that have sponsorships available, because that's how you do your work. All right, so I'll wait for, oh, that's nice. This is installing much faster now. Let's go ahead and actually we'll do let's go to Lagoon, Docker file CLI. Let's edit. I'm going to just pop this into a branch real quick that I can come back to, because the Nginx comes from CLI, and so does PHP. So let's go ahead and run it there. Although I guess in Circle CI we don't use the Docker build in Circle CI at all, so maybe it doesn't even matter about sending it early. It doesn't matter. So I'm just going to focus on it in here right now. Wait for this to finish. Wait for this, and then I can get back to the upgrade status. So I guess I have this here. So we know Drush needs to get bumped up to 10. Local projects compatible, I should just rescan. And now all these projects are ready to go. So I guess I should be able to just bump everything to Drupal 9. And we can see what happens. Install Composer deploy, check available updates, scan 7 projects. Skipped. Okay, so we can just ignore that. Any plans to write a new Drupal book or books in general? I would love to write another Drupal book, but I am not an ideas person. So I definitely I love to work on things, but I hit blocks all the time. So if you have ideas of what you'd like me to either like write on or do videos on, I would love suggestions. There I'm considering if there should be a 3rd edition of the Drupal Development Cookbook, because there's 2 editions during the Drupal 8 life cycle. Basically, the first one when Drupal 8 launched, and the 2nd edition came out around like 8.6, I think. Didn't get to it for Drupal 9, but now Drupal 10 right around the corner. It feels like it might be an interesting thing to do. So if people want it, I'll do it. It's just I haven't really had the I just didn't know if people would want it. So if that's something you'd be interested in, um, I'd be willing to work on that. Because writing a book is it's one of those things like it's really cool, but it's also like the biggest punishment you can give yourself because it is a lot more work than necessarily the return. But it's also one of those experiences. It's like who gets like you wrote a book and you got published. There's like a piece of paper that's got your name and your work on it. So it's exciting in that way. So feel free to email me or hit me up on Twitter if you have ideas on what you'd like me to cover, or if there should be a new edition of the Drupal Development Cookbook for Drupal 10. And if so, let me know what you'd like to see covered in it as well, because that's the other hard part is I don't necessarily know what I should cover. Because when I work with Drupal, it's like stupid extremes, like building applications with it versus building content sites. So I'm usually like down in the very, very low level APIs than actually interacting with the site as someone normally would. So I feel like I am like the wrong audience to know like what would be a good example. Or maybe that's what makes it cool is if it is like the really abstract weird stuff. Either way, just let me know. Um if I thought about doing an ask anything session in Twitch, I have. I just don't know how many people would show up. And I feel like it'd be weird if I did it and it was like I sat for an hour and there was nothing. So I thought about doing it. I need to figure out how I'd promote it. But all of my Twitch things are usually kind of like an AMA. It's like, hey, I'm going to be working on this, but just ask me stuff too. So if you do have any questions you want to ask me, I can do it right now, or I can circle back to it throughout because there's some dead time right here as it gets back up. All right, we are back up now. So if you have any like general questions, like feel free to ask. All right, so let's get back to here. Not using Apache, check that's fine. So let's get Drush 10 upgraded. So Drush. So let's go to 10.0. And what I think I will do here is Lando, Drush. Well, not think, but I want to do W. I want to do, not Drush. Goodness gracious. Composer. I want to do Lando, Composer, Update, Drush, and W, which is with all dependencies. So I don't want to just upgrade Drush. I want to make sure any of its dependencies are also upgraded as well. So let's go ahead and run that. Does Lando have command for Docker Compose? That wait for building the CLI container just looks painful. Yeah, well, I mean, Lando runs Docker Compose under the hood. So whether you're using Lando or DDev or Doxel or there might be another one I'm forgetting. They all run Docker Compose under the hood basically. So that waiting for CLI to build, it's just like if you were running Docker Compose directly. It's just that we have, sorry, one second. So CLI is from the Amazy 7.3, does a quick fix for Drush. I can kill this. This is probably fixed now. And then it does a copy and a build. So normally when you're working with Docker Compose locally and like if you're using Lagoon normally, not Lagoon, Lando Lagoon. I'm going to screw it up all the time. If you're using Lando normally, there won't be this copy and composer install process for the first time. This is like if you're doing like a full like deployment build with an image. So normally with Lando and DDev and even Doxel, it mounts your local directory and it's not used for like the full pipeline build. So that's one reason it seems slower when I did a rebuild because it rebuilt the images. So that's like doing a that's not what I wanted. Bash. So essentially, when I did rebuild, it was like going Docker compose up build and building all the images. So Lando, oh, Docker Composer, man, that is the worst typo. So it's essentially like doing a Docker compose stop, Docker compose up build, and then it's like Lando does a Docker compose stop, or it does this individually for each service. I haven't looked into the internals of Lando, but it does something like this, and then when you start up. So like I said, though, it's using Docker Compose under the hood. Even inside Lando, like you can define services like Docker Compose style. So there's that. All right, what got updated? I wasn't even paying attention. Downloading, blah, blah, blah. We have Drush 10. All right. Let's refresh this page. Go back to chat. You know, don't want to distract me too much. It's not too distracting. I'm also just I bounce around a lot anyways. So it won't distract me any more than I distract myself. Hold the phone. I thought I upgraded Drupal core. Oh, here's some goodies. Thank you. I am so glad you're here because you are helping me out right now so much. So Drupal oh wait, I have the Drupal integrations added. I have yep. I already have this added so that way it adds all the right, it adds it in here. Yeah, so it adds all of the Drupal integrations. The Lagoon site. Oh, also a few things have been updated, so maybe now I know I was having issues before where it wouldn't get the JWT token correctly inside Lagoon. Sorry, never mind. Let me bring that back. In Lando, the Lando one had some oddities, but I don't think I had issues with Drush, but I do have that added. So let's see. I thought I upgraded core, but it's saying that it didn't. Let me run this again real quick. Core recommended. Yeah, I swear I ran that already. Oh no, I started to, then I killed it so I could get Composer 2 to make it faster. That's it. So you've got Drush 10 with the latest core. Oh, this seems like a bug in upgrade status. So contribkanban uses I all of my projects always have a custom install profile, and not like the old Drupal 7 days. Like all it does is say, hey, when you run drush site install, it's a config install from the config directory, and that's it. It's not like I put all the modules underneath here, and a lot of times I'll use this as a deployment key, so that way all of my site deployments go through the install profile. I'm going to open a bug for Drupal.org project upgrade status. That's weird. Why would it list my install profile? Oh, shoot. Requires composer installers. Done. I gotta bump that. So before, when we talked about, like why not bump Composer 2, that's exactly why. Some people's Drupal sites or Laravel, any other ones that leverage Composer installers, WordPress, they would instantly be hit by these errors that say, Composer requires, installers requires API 1, you have 2. So let me just also Lando Composer update composer installers. I'm just going to add it to the list of packages. So that should then cause everything to be updated and be happy. I know some people, like when they see these errors, that's one reason they don't like Composer. Like, well, it gives me these errors and I don't understand them. Now imagine if you were the package manager and there was that conflict and you had to manually figure it out. That'd be worse, in my opinion. Like this way, it at least tells you when something's not right versus you having to figure out why something went wrong. It can sometimes give cryptic messages. I won't disagree there, but in general, I appreciate Composer more than the days of managing Drush make files manually. Let's look at core.extension. I want to see why it's reporting my install profile when it's listed here. So I'm going to open an issue. Create new issue. Custom install profile. Maybe this actually, you know what? The install profile used to be listed in settings, but I think now it's in here, and maybe that's why. Let's look for settings. Git install profile. Ensure BC layers. The install profile has not been written to settings.php. It is not present in core. Well, that looks like it should say has been. Confirms that the distribution. So, oh, we can't find the declaration to go to because it's still installing. Is reported as code as an extension that should be uninstalled. Let's see. All right, we'll click done. Show that screenshot. Bug report there. And going for a D9 upgrade on contribkanban. It listed my custom profile as an uninstalled extension and something to be removed, but it is the default profile. All right, going to take that screenshot and upload it. Let's see. I know if I click there and click embed, it'll still put it at the bottom. So let me cut and paste. There we go. Oh man, it takes forever. I hate running Composer, or actually, not Composer. I hate running Drupal and Composer in a Docker environment on Mac OS because it is like painstaking for the sync operation. And I really don't need to. It's just I have PHP 8 on my host, and I've started to get really lazy of bouncing back between PHP 8 and 7.4. But I think I waste more time on this than I do when by switching my PHP versions back and forth locally. But while that's going, I have a thing. So to kind of go back to like to ask me anything, is it here? No. Here. Uh-oh, we're gonna get little inception there. I have a link here. I'll drop in the chat. So if there's anything that you want to ask or have me cover in like an AMA, there's the link for it. An Ask Matt Almost Anything. Feel free to drop some stuff there, and maybe I can just, if I get enough, then one day I could do like a Ask Me Anything and go through the questions. Kind of like how Syntax FM does a potluck. That was my idea behind it. Syntax FM, if you're not familiar, is a podcast by Wes Boss and Scott Talinsky. Covers a lot of front end stuff, and they had these potlucks where they take user or listener submitted questions and kind of run through them and answer them. So that's one thing I thought about doing, or just actually doing in a full-on AMA. Just like sit on Twitch one day, not actually doing development, but just answering questions. Oh. Oh, so ASDF, what? ASDF plugin manager. Let's see. So that's here we'll see this. I'm giving so if gonna go back real quick. So Brave actually rolled out their own search engine, and I've been giving it a try over DuckDuckGo just to see what it's like. So if this looks different, that's why. It recently went into beta, but it doesn't always give the best results. Like here, enter ASDF. Here we go. Multiple runtime versions in a single CLI tool. Provides a GitHub action to install, utilize your .tool. Plugins. Reference. Oh, link. That's not it. Getting started. Let's see. We'll wait. You gotta be kidding me. Download, so you can do homebrew. Have that. So does this work with homebrew? Because I have I have what is it? User no, etc. local, no. User local. Because I have 7.4. Oh, jeez. I have 7.4 and 8 with homebrew. Does it work that way? You've got to be kidding me. This is still going? All right. Brew, unlink. I don't have time for that. This is honestly, I just keep this command and it works all the same. I just keep that handy. Okay, let's do this without Lando and just do it on the host. Many videos on hook updates, best for backwards compatibility with multiple environments. Add question. Yeah, that sounds like a cool, fun question. Yeah, so like Linux, that looks great because you can have the multiple paths, but like with brew, the brew unlink and then force is a lot easier. I mean, that was pretty simple. Let's see here. that was a lot faster. Let me just get brew unlink. Let me get my PHP 8 back on local. HPV. All right. So that's running. Now I should be able to refresh upgrade status. And get the right data, or it should say that we're all up to date. This should say this here. Oh, it's still indexing, which I should begin updating all these individual items as well. So actually, I don't know why. I don't know why I went back to PHP 8, because if I got to upgrade all these other things, I should just do it. All right. So we're good there. Probably should make sure that PHP Storm is happy with the interpreter. It's still indexing. Okay, let's go ahead and scan these projects. How do you scan? Scan selected. Now, doing it in upgrade status would be close to the same as doing it on the command line with PHP stand, but the one thing upgrade status does is it can check for deprecated theme functions. No, not theme hooks, libraries, and alter hooks and things like that. That's stuff that can't be done with static analysis because you need a stateful environment like an installed Drupal site. So that's the one place where PHP stand can't really meet the needs all the way. So let that run. And this will probably take a minute on both ends. I don't like waiting. I am very impatient, which I'm sure folks have determined between the streams. I am just not a patient person. Oh, wait, this is simply test me. Let's get back to contribkanban. That's initializing. I guess while this is going, let's do composer require. We'll do some cleanup in here as well. So if I look at extension neon, we should be able to do composer require dev extension installer, which will allow us to drop these includes. Come on. So yep, so here we see that they were installed. We can drop this, but it doesn't conflict anymore. If you're curious about what that package does, if we go to PHP stand, the extension installer will actually, it does this generated config, which gets sourced by PHP stand and does the proper includes. So that's a handy one. Oh, thanks for the bits. So I'm gonna go ahead and kick off a commit here. Yeah, let's just do a blind update Words are hard. Composer 2, Drush 10. Miscellaneous prep, because that's a good commit message. So let's push, and then let's do GitHub PR create. We'll create a pull request. One uncommitted change. What did I forget? VS Code, that's fine. Drupal 9 port is what we'll name the pull requests. Open Vim, fixes. What issue did this fix? 218. Almost a year later, but a year later is better than never. So we'll just see where Circle CI comes up with, because there is like there's a end-to-end test. We have PHP stand, upgrade status, building the back end. So there are various tests. I actually forgot that I have some front-end tests running. Like what? Oh, actually rendering, but doesn't actually talk to the back end. So it's not a full end-to-end test. That'd be one thing I'd like to add with Cypress, maybe, is full end-to-end test with the back end running and the front end. But this project is kind of like an autopilot that I don't really have to give much attention to it. All right, so that's running against my projects. I think the one thing it gave a warning about was Redis, because it didn't scan against Redis, but I know this should be fine. I'll just do that one next. That's right there. So while that's pending, let's go ahead and see what's in the results. I know when I did this last time, it was, oh, what is that? Board provider. You've requested a non-existent. This is probably just a dependency error in my custom code, because it's used here. Missing board. Oh, how can, oh, who knows? That's happening. Doesn't matter too much, because it's still past the install, and this doesn't get reinstalled often except for in the CI process. So that's one reason that I have my profile set up this way, is there's no content, but with the Drush SI you get all of your config, which makes it easier to run tools like upgrade status and other, basic end-to-end testing tools, is you don't need to fetch a database dump from somewhere. Everything is contained. All right. This fixed. What is, now what is, oh, admin toolbar. That's right. This module is ready for Drupal.9. Oh, that's below. My projects are all good. It's compatible. Yay. And A. Not applicable. So good to go. For local scan result for problems with PHP unit framework sound. Functional test. Oh, that's right. I need to get Swift Mailer. Wait a second. Hold on. Swift Mailer. I know this works on D9. Drupal.org project Swift mailer. I know I had this on a D9 site, so what's going on here? Oh, I think this is a bug in upgrade status where it doesn't read this. This is like a weird bug where it can't parse that correctly. Contrib Swift mailer. And it errored out on PHP unit. That's fine enough for me. I guess we'll run it again. We don't need to run it against Redis because it's uninstalled. Or screw it. Let's just run it. Scan selected. Let's see what's going on here. This is still processing admin toolbar. Or not. It's finishing. Here we go. Let's look at all of this. Admin search library is not defined because blah, 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 blah. Consumers, that's a deprecation, and the testing. Email registration can't be found because commerce doesn't exist. So that's one thing too. Is one thing with PHP stand is it doesn't handle conditional dependencies very well. Why did I use Lando for contrib kanban? So before contrib kanban just used the PHP built-in web server and SQLite for local development because that works just fine. The only reason I usually use DDEV, but Lando has an integration with Lagoon, the hosting service that this uses, that makes it a lot easier to pull databases and work with the remote hosting. So that's why I set up with Lagoon, is to try to make it a little bit easier to pull custom databases. So that's why I decided for here. And then Drupal VM, I haven't had a project. Well, I haven't chosen Drupal VM for a project since 2015 is the last time that I used Drupal VM by choice. Recently, I was on a project where I used Drupal VM. The main reason being disk space. Vagrant, I ran out of disk space too fast because it's just the VMs themselves are huge, and yeah, I dropped it. Also, having to write, it was a lot easier to plug and play with additional services like Elasticsearch, Redis, RabbitMQ. For complex builds, Docker was a lot friendlier. Friendlier in air quotes, I guess, friendlier. But it made a lot of those more custom setups easier to work with. So this search content, this seems to be simple OAuth. That's fine. So Lagoon, I used Lando because it has an integration with Lagoon, so that way I could do polls. Like, let's see if it shows Lando, Lagoon. Let's see what some of the subcommands are. So there is actually, I guess, there is the Lagoon CLI, and this is a wrapper around it, but it can like do automatic authentication for you. This could be done with DDEV, I'm sure, but if I did Lando Lagoon, who am I picked it because it should make it easier to work with. So here we go. It connected me, or it made it easier to work with Lagoon. That was the main reason I picked it. And also, all of my projects, I like all of my projects to be examples for other folks. So if anybody else is on Lagoon and has a Drupal project, maybe they could look at contrib kanban and be like, oh, how do they do local development? So that's the other reason too. Like, I may have my preferences, but I like all of my work to be examples others can borrow from. All right, so this looks good to go. I'm gonna go ahead and let's see. I'm gonna wait for this to finish processing. And then go ahead and run an update to get to Drupal 9. So I know with Drupal 9, we don't really need, well, actually, even with Composer 2, we don't need this Composer Drupal optimizations. Oh, come on. Stop thinking and just, well, since PHP Storm is just going to sit and think on this for a bit. Well, I guess, what is the latest out? What's the latest out? Let's get this to come. 9.2.4. Let's just go straight to 9.2.4, which actually I don't really recommend. Usually it's like do a bunch of minor versions first. Like if you're on Drupal 8.9, you should be saying, I want 9.0.0. Like start here, or rather, like you want to get to 9.0. Run upgrades, then go to 9.1, then go to 9.2. You should be fine in most cases going here, but taking the more iterative approach will make life a lot easier in most cases. And I'm going to do 9.2. Actually, we're going to change this from dev pinned to core dev. I used to always go to dev pinned, which would match Drupal core exactly, but I don't need to do that anymore, I don't believe. It's just when you didn't use core dev pinned, it's like you would get like some wild range in PHP unit before. From the beginning of Drupal 8 to the end of Drupal 8. So, but now it seems like it's fine. And the fact that we're moving into about, what is it, like 2-year life cycles for major versions. You don't really need pinned, but I always say use Drupal core recommended over just /Drupal core. Let me just review this. Oh, actually, one thing too, I want to make a pull request to the Amazy.io library for this. I'm going to go on a little bit of a side quest at the moment. I need to pull it up in another browser so I don't share some private client repos. So I created this thing for myself that scaffolds my Drupal projects. And the one problem with the Composer or the Core Composer Scaffold plugin is on first install, it says, oh, I won't scaffold it because it's not in the allowed packages. So like when you do Composer require Amazy.io Drupal integrations, it's like, great, you did it, but we didn't scaffold it. Go and edit. You have to add it to the allowed packages. Turns out that you can make, actually Amazy's project couldn't do that because it's set as a Drush command or a Drush project. What I found out is that if you create a Composer plugin, you can listen to events, and I am able to add myself to an allowed package to do scaffolding. But I forgot it has to be a Composer plugin, not just another kind of package. So never mind, I cannot contribute that. All right, so we got that. Let's just run update. I'm going to regret clicking it inside PHP Storm instead of in the command line. Shoot. That's it. Stop. I'm going to cancel it. Let's do it from here. So Composer update. Again, this update is going to get us to Drupal 9.4. Module's this. All right. And then we'll have to get admin toolbar. Oh. All right. So here we'll try to, so let's go of core dev. So I always add core dev because it gives me PHP unit and I have tests. I write tests for everything that I have. So adding core dev gives you Drupal's PHP unit dependencies. So PHP unit, Mink, etc. So I'm going to go through this and hopefully it helps people read this output a little bit better. So right, you're like, don't install core recommended 9.3.xdev. It's like, I didn't ask for that. That's because it was going through all the possibilities. But we can see here, don't install 9.2.4. Drupal extension requires Symfony dependency injection 2.7 or 3. If we look down here, basically, I have the Drupal extension for Behat, and it's incompatible. And I think that's a holdover because I don't have any Behat tests, do I? Oh, I do. But how old is this? 2019. Shoot. Here's the bigger question. Do I actually do it in any CI? I don't even know why I have a robo. Oh, this is from when I hosted it myself on via Ansible. Let me look at Circle CI. Do I run Behat? I do not. So let's just ditch Behat. Or let's see. Drupal extension. V4. Let's just bump it to V4. Let's do 4.1. And we'll do an update. So you can just see it said that, Drupal extension conflicted because it wanted Symfony dependency injection 2, which also conflicted with the Symfony validator and all these other things. So a lot of this is just it trying the various versions. Usually the bottom part where it says root composer.json requires X and requires Y. These are where the conflicts actually result. Oh, look at upgrading. All the things. Scaffold 9.2.4. All the stuff. The big question will then be, does it all work? I don't, wait. Oh, I'm so bad. I don't actually have tests in here. And the Behat tests are from before it was a decoupled application. So it looks like it's going to be some manual review. All right, so let's go upgrade status. Let's just see what's there. Let's see, update. We do know that admin toolbar needs to get updated to 3. Oh, before I do all that, I should do Lando Drush updb. Yes, I should run all of the updates that are required. So we'll run all the updates, then I'll do a config export to catch any config that was modified due to the updates. And then I'll upgrade admin toolbar to 3.x. I don't imagine there being any problems with that. Three, and choose a configuration form to limit the number of bundles to display. Yeah, it should be straightforward to add once these updates process. Right. Admin toolbar search as an entry, but is not installed. Oh, that's weird. Well, there's actually not that many updates that go through. From going from 8.9 to 9.2, it's just cleaning up a bunch of stuff, a bunch of items rather. Oh, no. Wait a second. The plugin cache clear service or alias has been removed or inlined when the container was compiled. You should either make it public or stop using the container directly and use the well, that's a new thing. Side question: who do you follow on Twitch? The curl maintainer, and then now I can't remember her handle. It's like Cassie Dew. She's a developer at Microsoft, I believe. The worst part is like I don't have time. I usually don't have time to sit and watch Twitch or YouTube. We have 3 kids and client work, and I started live streaming as a way to finally have fun with programming again. So I'm more of a creator than consumer in that regard. This was my way of getting back into doing things and contributing a bit more. So I don't have a good list. I would like to start following more people. When it comes to YouTube though, Jeff Geerling, I subscribe and try to watch his stuff as much as I can because that's fun and it makes me want to spend lots of money on Raspberry Pis and other stuff that I don't have time for. And I'm trying to figure out what is going on here. Sometimes the best thing you can do is skip the CLI. I'm just going to go to update.php. Oh, the service has a dependency on not. Oh, what? Well, this is what I get. So I'm not. This should be caught by PHP stan. All right. Well, let's fix this. So non-existent service. So this should have been caught by PHP stan because it's built into it. Let's do entity type manager. Let's quick refactor this. This all should have been caught. This entity converter. It also needs the entity repository. So how about seriously? Entity converter. Let's do it this way. So instead of defining the arguments, what I'm going to do is call it, say it has the parent service, and that will take care of the converter. And I can do the same thing here to avoid. So if I say this is the parent here as well, I can avoid the arguments because I do not override the constructor. That makes me upset. I guess I should have run PHP stan or Drupal check locally. So how about I do that? So let's do PHP vendor bin, PHP stan. Why? Hold on. Why don't I have? Oh, because I changed the bin directory. I'm one of those that like thought it was cool to have a separate bin directory like locally instead of using vendor bin. I don't really do that as much anymore. Web modules, custom. So let's go through. Drupal requires Prophecy PHP unit when using Drupal 9. That's right. So let's run that. I'm wondering why upgrade status didn't catch those things. I will say this is going better than when I tried to live port my website to Drupal 9 because I broke it and pushed it to production in a horrible state. So if you ever have struggles with Drupal 9 upgrade, I did too. And I write a bunch of the tooling for it. So let's go through. Called to undefined method. All right. Let's see here. So we got a deprecated method. Where is this even at? User password. That's only used on install. So this actually should be Drupal get container get password generator generate. Let's see, me. That's not the right one. Me add cacheable dependency. So response. Actually, that's right. So create response. Return JSON. So this is outdated because it could be a cacheable JSON resource response. Response factory create return. Yeah, so if class, all right, so it could be returning that. So let's say if response instance of cacheable JSON response or cacheable resource response. Sorry, this is a JSON API resources endpoint. Entity board. Let's go fix that. I should just run from the command line instead of upgrade status. To begin with, 74. That's right. Called the undefined static method. Well, it's not undefined. It's just deprecated, right? Wait, how does this say will be removed in 9.0? What we're in. Oh, what in the world is this? Hold on. I don't know what that is, but I'm going to delete it. Oh, probably because I killed an update and that's where it had it cached. So now it's going to go up. So let's do that. So missing board. Okay, that we can fix fairly easily. So let's just rerun this now. Perfect. So one thing I want to try too is composer require dev Palantir net. Is that it? Let's see, Drupal rector. All right, I want to actually try this. Something. So Palantir has been sponsoring my time to work on Drupal rector. And one thing I want to try out, I'm going to make it a dependency myself too, is there are Symfony rectors for fixing that. Let's first let's commit some stuff before I get too wild. Let's just make sure everything looks decent. Add that git ignore because it just says the readme dot. So update to Drupal 9. Let's commit. Although I just realized I committed the composer.json with the rector stuff not configured, but oh well. So if we look at rector to get installed, you require it, and then you copy the rector.php. And this is what's used to configure rector. We'll include Drupal 8 and Drupal 9 deprecations. But what we can do is hub.com /here. I want to try out some rules to automatically fix our Symfony deprecations that were reported. Let's see. Let's look at the pull request. I have a pull request up to include these automatically, but we need to test them. So I'm going to do like a little bit of a live testing right now. So files changed. I should just be able to copy these, add it to my rector, say, hey, fix these deprecations for me. And then do PHP vendor, not PHP bin, rector. Is it just dry run? Okay, so let's do PHP bin rector, web modules, custom. We'll do dry run. So only see the diff. And we'll see if we can fix these Symfony deprecations automatically. Command, oh, argument, wait. Process. I thought it was a single command application, so you didn't have to do that. So let's see if this will fix the Symfony deprecations. And if it does, then that means we can add it to Drupal rector, so that way it automatically fixes contrib and client code when you're using it. That go through. See if this update.php is happy now, if it can recompile the container. Four files would have changed. So it shortened. Okay, that's not exactly what I was hoping for it to fix. Applied rules. Here we go. It fixed the, looks like it fixed up my Symfony code along with other general code styling fixes. So let's go ahead and just let that run. And this is a generic error because I tried to make a custom 404 handler. This would actually be, let's go to status report. And I'm pretty sure they have it where you could run rector in your CI. And if anything needs to be changed, it will cause your CI to fail. So I'm going to add that too. Let's go ahead and config YAML. PHP stand. So yeah, PHP stand is supposed to run and catch things, but that didn't fail either. So let's PHP CS. So that means PHP stand has some quirks that still need to be worked out. We'll call this rector. And this is the command we'll run. So, yeah, so somewhere in, if we look at rector, actually, I can't remember where it is exactly, but it does some check, like if you're inside of a CI environment, it will return an auto detect format according to CI environment. So if it's in there, it should return like a. It won't fix stuff, but it return like the proper exit code. That's it. That's what I'm looking for. Exit code. So if I did here, it's on 30. Okay, I don't know what I'm talking about, but it will fail build. So let's add rector to the build process. Before I commit, let's go ahead and rerun PHP stand. And we should have no more deprecations because it fixed the Symfony deprecations. Oh, one error. So this one was not fixed. Let's make a note. Note of that somewhere. Not sure where. Throwable. So fix that up. Let's run it again. Rebuild access is enabled in themes. I am doing a rebuild. And time to update. Do this. So add rector and fix Symfony deprecations. Let's commit. Now we'll get the admin menu or admin toolbar to version 3. Run composer update. Oh, I need to also fix the problem where it crashed when doing the when running the updater. So let's do that too. I'm going to SSH into the app container. Because part of me feels like that's half the time. Is like, it just seems like it takes forever to like get into the container to do things. So if you do PHP vendor, PHP bin, drush, updb, yes. Let's see if this works this time. So I can do a config export. This thing also just needs so much cleanup. So contribkanban first started as an Angular app hosted on parse.com, or not hosted on parse.com, but it used parse.com for its backend. Then Facebook acquired Parse and shut it down. So then it was just self-hosted Angular application, and then I ported it to Drupal 8. I think that was the next step, and it was just Drupal. But then I wanted to vanilla JavaScript is hard, and I found myself just recreating a framework. So then I ported it to React and decoupled Drupal. So let's do drush CX. Yes. Hopefully this will work. Perfect. So let's go review the config that was created. Admin toolbar settings. Ooh, the system advisories. Nice. Nice to see that landed. Core extensions. Uninstalled stable and classy. Move those old settings from the BC. View settings. Rename master display to default display. Let's see. Upgrade admin toolbar and export config. Let's do a push. So if I do Lagoon and list, let's do Lagoon list environments. Missing project name is not defined. So that's one thing. For some reason, it's not picking up my project. But if I were to run it inside Lando, so if I do Lando Lagoon project, it still did not detect the project name. And I thought it was supposed to do that magically. And the only reason I think that is because I helped write the initial port or the initial Lagoon CLI. Back when contribkanban was first hosted on Lagoon, the only way to interact with the hosting was via the graphical, like graph IQL interface to query the GraphQL server. And so I wrote a quick little the initial concept so that way I could interact with it, and it's supposed to automatically detect your project, but it's not. Oh well. So not a well. I want to just figure out project, parse project flags, big map, the project, missing project names not defined, command project name. Oh, let's see. Where is that defined? I thought it was automatically picked up somehow. And the only reason I care right now so much is I want to see if I just have my shared. I want to see if I have something missing. So these are either set by flags or via Lagoon CLI app when entering a directory. Let's see. Root. Init config. Get Lagoon file. Lagoon CLI. If the directory or repository you're in is valid, .lagoon.yaml. And Docker compose. That's a license file. Docker compose. Oh, wait. This option is opt-in now. So to use it, you'll need to run this check. Did not know that. All right. There we go. Maybe now it will work. Nope. All right, I give up. That's the project name. -p, contribkanban. Okay, so we have pull request 278 and undefined. I'm going to guess that means it has failed building inside Lagoon. So let's go to UI. So let's see why this failed building. So that's PR278. Deployments. Let's see why this one failed. See if we go to the bottom. Oh, the engine node is incompatible with this module. Expected version 10, 12, got 13. So this is... Oh man, has this just been... Has production been broken? Oh man, it's been broken since June. Oh, well then. Looks like I've also got to fix this. And set up hooks to tell me that things are broken. This should be pretty quick to fix though. Lagoon. App. Node 14. That's probably because I probably did a compile with something locally. So Lando npm, just see what happens. All right, let's see, Lando node v. Did I use Lando yarn? Is yarn a command? All right, guess so. Oh shoot, and I renamed my branches too, so that's gonna break things. So let's see here. This became main. So I guess this branch is just also everything about this branch is a cleanup. So that's still running. Let's just look at that error again. No lock file found. Well, that's the other problem. It's like, why is there no lock file found? Oh shoot, there really isn't a lock file found. What's this one for? Oh, because it's got a yarn workspace. Oh shoot. That would be why it didn't build properly. It doesn't have a lock because I moved to a workspaces setup, so it didn't install off of the lock file. So we copy this, then run yarn and yarn build. I wonder if I can. So what I should be able to do is so I set it up since there's various things that need to be built. I set up yarn workspaces. So that way I could build the Chrome extension and do some various things with the front end. It seemed like a neat idea, and it kept my node modules really tiny. But it has caused problems with the deployment because it copies in the front end and it doesn't have a lock file. So my idea, once this is done, is to... So we're going to copy, and we're going to copy I'm going to copy the above directory yarn.lock to there, and there being into the main directory, and then we should be able to, the yarn should run against the lock file. I hope. And by bumping the Docker image to 14, I should fix that. I'm going to go ahead and push this. We'll see what happens. Fix node build for front end. The only thing I'm going to be somewhat worried about is I know it doesn't, so I love Lagoon. The logs just don't stream though. So I have to wait for the build to finish to know if it's going to fail or not. But luckily we know they fail after about 1 minute and 2 seconds. So if it crashes, we should know right away. It's still running, so maybe it's been fixed. So let's go and get this covered. Let's see. Let me look at the front end. env.local. Development.local. I have it pointing to api.contribkanban.com. Oh, here we go. So for development, I do have it pointed. So I was just running this on my machine. This is going to take a long time. So package.json. Let's do next JSON. Let's run front end start. And this knows to be able to talk to, on development, it's going to talk to the Lagoon site or the Lando site. So localhost, this should talk to here, and we can verify that the site works in a basic fashion. While we wait to confirm, oh, that failed. Oh, yeah. Forbidden path outside the build context. I should have known that would happen. So the build context is here. We have front end. The context is the front end directory. The Docker files out there. I could change the context to be in the root directory, but for now, I'm going to comment that out. Say to do copy in .lock file. Yarn.lock is outside of context. Let's commit and push that. The run is now going, I hope. What in the world? Maybe this browser list update is just taking forever. Or it's also this conflict right here by using Lando yarn. That seems to have done it. All right. So we got a console error. Opposite blocked there. So network Ajax is against the local environment. We got results back. The page is loaded. Let's go to create project board. Let's do, I have no idea if this one exists or not. So let's do, oh, find DOM node was passed. That's fine. Add board, network request, post, pending. It was a 201 redirect. So it seems like it's working just fine on Drupal 9. Create. Log in to create sprint board. I think we're going to be good to go. And if not, I'm sure folks will let me know. Let's just get, now I just need to make sure I get this build to work. Projects are up to date. That's running. It says it's going to be going for 2 minutes. So that's hopeful. Simple OAuth. Let's look at this. Also available is V5. What is in V5? Fields added customer showing wrong UI. What is the 5.0 release? OpenID Connect. D9 fixes. Proof DX to OpenID Connect claims. BC, behavior and upstream libraries. All right, so I'm going to upgrade this to 5 real quick. Basically just do all of my maintenance for this project that I need to do right now, since, like I said, there's not a lot that has to be done with it, so I'm going to just take care of it now. Composer update, and then I'm going to do -W because I want all the dependencies to update as well. So I bet if we look at the tag, we'll see that it updated the composer.json. Oh, so fixed dependency drift. Just I don't want to see the commit. So updated the dependencies. And brought in the drush. Dependency drift with JWT library breaks 5.x. Thought there'd be more to that, but we'll just use it because I know Brad Jones is using this in various projects and I trust him. So let's go back and do Lando SSH. So I'm realizing I think part of the problem is doing Lando, drush, Lando, whatever. It just takes a while because the process of SSHing into the container takes a while. But once I'm inside of it, it's fine. So maybe that's just my gripe, is just the time it takes to get into the container. So PHP and drush, updb. Let's see if there's any updates. This is still running. Which is good news because once I have that running, that means I can merge into main and everything can be a-okay. So it looks like all that's up to date. I think email registration I could probably get rid of too. I'm going to make that a follow-up because in the front end, I have a register form. So let's see, components, pages, and register. Yeah, it's using the JSON API user resources, and it sets the login to be the email. So I could actually uninstall that project. Set the default flag. Sure, we'll click yes. And maybe try to fix that too. That warning. All right, if it's still going, I'm going to assume that it's working. So let's go now and we'll say, what did I update? Simple OAuth. Update simple auth. Can stop the local front end because we know that's working. So let's do drush en admin toolbar search. And then I'm going to uninstall email registration because that's not used anymore since there's no people aren't registering or logging into the back end anymore. So let's also do pm uninstall email registration. I cannot remove the code though. So it actually has, so in Drupal, whenever you uninstall a module, you can't remove the code base either in the same deployment. You need to do one deploy that uninstalls and then a follow-up that removes the code. So let's do drush config export. Yes. So that enables that deletes that fixes there. Disable email registration. Oh shoot, actually I don't want to push yet. I just want to commit. It failed. And logs aren't available yet. So I need to go and wait a minute for the logs to finish up. So I'm going to go ahead and push. So let that go and see if I can get the logs to show up yet. I cannot. I know there is a bit of a delay for getting the logs. So I do these streams for 2 hours. I'm coming up on that point. I might have to call it. Shoot. Really want this to work. Let's see. See what came back in the GraphQL. Project, deployment. Build log is still null. So I'm not sure why it failed. Oh, but I have routes. Hold on. So let's see. So it failed, but I have routes. And usually, hold on. What's, and why does it have data? It's not supposed to have data because I thought it's supposed to. Oh boy. Because the front end is talking to my local host. Shoot. I thought I configured that. 1 second. So the .env development, it should have picked up this React base. One sec. I need to figure out what happened. Project dockerfile.app. So argument is here. It's supposed to be set React app API host name. Oh. Is that why this is completely out of sync? Lagoon local dev URL. And that needs to be more dynamic, but it's not. Shoot. All right, so the preview environments are a bit busted. We'll go through and look at this directly. There are no boards. Why did it fail? I want to know why it has a failure. Oh, here we go. Let's go to the bottom. Config import failed. So it's a fresh install. No delete action. These reasons. No delete action plugin does not exist. Well, why didn't this get deleted from my... This is just odd. So let me just try to grok this. So it did install finished. Oh, it even broke. Unexpected during import operation for create. The no delete plugin does not exist. Is that because, one second, do I have some stray config in here? Core.extension. I have the node. That's super weird. That it's failing. Dependencies node. Why would that fail on the install? So I've never had that happen with this setup before. But, oh shoot. So I need to make a few issues for myself. So PR environments, PR environment front end does not use PR backend, defaults to local Lando URL. That's one bug. New issue. See, fresh install fails due to no action delete not found, which let's look at simply test me, because I know this follows the same. Oh, it got moved. So let's do iMojo setup system dot action dot node delete action. Same difference. Oh, wait a second. No, it's not. Let's see. Wrong file. What's the difference here? That's the difference. Why these did not get updated? So that would be why. So let's fix that. No delete action. Publish action. Jeez. So node publish promote. Like, why didn't those get updated? Is what is confounding me right now. Let's make sure I got all those. So here, delete action. node save action. That's one I missed. So node save. Entity action, save action. There should have been an update hook that handled this, and maybe I just lost it. I'm going to guess the unpublish is probably also an entity driver. So let's look. Node save. Node unpublish. All right, so that should fix those. Fix node actions. Let's commit. So if I were to do bin drush CIM, it should have errored here too. All right. No delete action. Plugin does not exist. Oh, is this like in a broken state now? I got a better idea. I don't use nodes, so just gonna delete, but that's probably not good enough. Okay, that's good enough. Delete node actions. So if I push that, it's going to close the issue. Okay. So unfortunately, there's not a good way to test this. We have, oh, I had test failures here. What's the failure? You're in front end test. Why did this fail? Login test, invalid client. So this failed. Let's look at Circle CI, Fig, E2E test. Maybe this back to URL. So it does set up a default site. So I bet if we look at install backend, maybe this is why. Maybe this will be fixed now. Create test login user. Okay, so the end-to-end does actually test registration. So that's good. What happened here? So this one test failed because it didn't log in. Client authentication failed. Let's look at the front end. Source pages. Log in. 40. Okay. Unknown error. Wait. 40 console.log result. So it sets the error message. Client authentication failed. But what does that? Invalid client. That's on the. That's from simple OAuth, which would happen when we have web modules API. So in here we have the ensure default consumer. That's the client. and it runs on Commerce API install, which when we exists, I feel like it needs to run inside of here. As well. So this hook update, I feel like, we need to add an update step that actually calls this function. But why was it passing before? We'll see. So yep, so this is still failing. It deployed to Lagoon, at least. But again, the front end is going to be talking to, it's not talking to the correct endpoint. All right, let me just look at this build output. So yeah, I created the deployment for the PR. Ran all the scripts. But now I'm kind of worried because this is failing. Register form allows multiple registrations. So the login test is failing. It says invalid client. Let's try this out. Let's try display name new translatable markup. Ensure default consumer. Actually, this might need a little bit more in-depth review. I can handle that failing for right now because it's only happening on a fresh install. I'm going to merge this because I'm a daring person. All right, so that's been merged. Let's see. Contrib-kanban. Oh, man. Shoot. All right, let's... Lagoon. I need to see if I can find the command I made. Deploy branch. Okay. So we need to update. I did this all for Simply Test Me earlier, or not earlier, a while ago. So the project name is contrib-kanban. And the branch is main. It's no longer master. All right. So if I run, it's here. I think I need to make another commit in order for this to work. Let's see, what kind of frivolous commit could I make? Just do git status, git commit, allow empty, deploy commit for Lagoon. Shoot. Let's pull. Empty commit for Lagoon deploy. Let's just try this out. And let's see if that's enough to make Lagoon recognize the push with the change. Okay. I think once this is built, it will change over. As we have branches enabled is main, but this isn't built, so it hasn't kicked over yet. At least I think that's the case. We'll see what happens. If not, contribkanban might be down for a little bit, and I'll work on it later. But I have to go. So thanks everybody that tuned in and hung out with me while I ported contribkanban to Drupal 9. Have a good weekend.